Stop sleeping on this game. Almost none of you watched my initial video on it, and that is to your own detriment. Not only because my content is the fire emoji, but because the game is a straight banger. I didn't change the title of that video to be clickbaity. Dave the Diver is the best indie game of 2023 so far, and it's not close. So what is Dave the Diver? It's a game that involves sushi, and it's just as raw. You are a diver who dives down and harpoons the ever-loving dick out of any fish you can get your fatty fat flippers on in the morning and afternoon, and then at night you bring those ingredients to your sushi restaurant and manage the fuck out of it. You decide the menu, you enhance your ingredients to increase their taste factor and gold gain, you hire staff and serve customers in a timely fashion lest they get impatient and storm out of there in a huff because their fried shark head didn't get there in time. But this isn't just a diving sim and a restaurant sim. There's a ton of other factors at play here. The area you dive changes geologically every time you go down there in roguelike fashion, including the weapons and items you can potentially find and the locations of fish. Though admittedly, runs don't really feel all that different since the same fish are relegated to the same depth level and you're probably going through the same goal-oriented motions regardless. That doesn't stop it from being a blast though, and the money you make selling your sushi can be used to upgrade your diving equipment, craft permanent weapons and upgrades, increase your carrying capacity, harpoon strength, oxygen level, dive distance. The systems are in place for an extremely engaging loop right out of the gate. You can also use that money to train your staff and make them more capable and quick so you can serve more customers and thus make more money. I usually enjoy restaurant management games once they stop stressing me out, but always to a certain point of progression where I'm like, alright, I'm kinda over it now. But with Dave the Diver, it's front to back engaging. You're researching new recipes, trying to build your social media presence, looking for unique staff members to hire, competing in reality cooking shows, and always improving your dishes and your revenue over time. If you want to, you can completely ignore the main quest and just focus on the restaurant, but you'll want to progress the main quest at a good clip so you can unlock important things later, especially areas where you can catch more expensive fish. So let's get to the game graph, where we judge story, graphics, mechanics, and fun as separate categories and give them separate scores, before coming together at the end to give an overall score for the whole ass game. Starting with story, Dave the Diver's story is surprisingly varied. There's a lot of things going on at the same time, but never to the point of being overwhelming, and it's very obvious from the get-go that these aren't just some idyllic sushi bar shenanigans. Important things happen, things having to do with giant bosses and a potential race of sea people who are half human and half tasty. And our rotund protagonist is drawn into all sorts of conflict and a risky business. The main quest stuff is largely whatever, nothing's ever really like, oh my god, I wonder what will happen next, but the characters are fleshed out and really ground the experience into something generally wholesome overall, and it feels comforting to get introduced to them and see what happens. The game isn't afraid to meme either, like the guy who introduces you to the concept of trading cards is a fat 40-year-old heavily implied to be an aging and out-of-shape Ash Ketchum. He dresses like him, talks about catching them all, and his name is Sato, which is probably short for Satoshi, Ash's Japanese name, and whenever he's done talking to you, he goes choo-choo, like a retarded Pikachu. So the story is fine, but the real strength is the characters, but that's still part of it, so story gets an 85. As for graphics, it's a pixel art game, but the visuals are still on point. The undersea atmosphere is pretty and believable, and I have to give special mention to the cutscenes because some of them are both gorgeous and hilarious. There aren't very many, and they're usually very short, but you'll get stuff like important characters trying your sushi for the first time and going insane, or anything anime related in regard to the weapon shop guy, which is an utter joy to behold. This game oozes personality, and it just makes me happy. I'll give graphics a 90. As for mechanics, everything works except for the things that don't, which are few and far between. Dave the Diver is surprisingly mechanic diverse. There's a lot of different one-off sections where you play differently or are participating in some kind of minigame. You've got the reality show competitions, which play like WarioWare microgames. You've got some light puzzle sections, a couple underwater stealth sections. Speaking of stealth, I do have to highlight one mission in particular where you're performing stealth outside of the water, and it's the worst part of the game, hands down, just straight up dysfunctional. The windows of time for staying undetected as you move are super tight, and if you get caught, you respawn without the game state changing, so you can straight up ruin previous opportunities by having the rhythm of the enemy's patterns get fucked up, and then you're just sunk for a few more tries until you get lucky enough to restore the intended pathing. I don't expect an untrained manatee to be good at stealth, but Dave is getting screwed over by the game itself on that one. Most of what is introduced is good, or at least serviceable though, with the sushi bar mechanics being the highlight. I just always look forward to the evening hours so I can fill out my menu and watch a luchador and a ninja race around serving people narwhal sushi. The boss fights are mostly good, except the mantis shrimp. That fight just sucks. I think they patched it after I played it, so I don't know if it's better now, but I had a miserable time with the core mechanic of the battle deciding to randomly not work whenever it felt like it. But the game's been hotfixing almost every day since it came out of early access, so any problem you run into, report it in the Discord or somewhere and it'll probably get fixed. I give mechanics overall a 90 because the core loop is so satisfying and they try to introduce a lot of gameplay shakeups during certain moments. Lastly is fun. Is Dave the Diver fun? Absolutely. You will sink dozens of hours into this game unintentionally and not even be mad. The sun will give way to the moon behind you and you'll be none the wiser. It constantly introduces not only new mechanics but new gameplay staples, like unlocking farming or fish breeding, or near the end even opening a new branch of the restaurant to manage. There are special events where you get bonus money for serving a certain kind of dish, and prepping for those ahead of time to maximize coin intake is very satisfying. The only times this game gets anywhere near dull are during certain quests where you're participating in a new but mildly lame type of gameplay that probably won't ever show up again. If you die while underwater, you can only bring back one item or fish, and with your upgradable oxygen meter and the plentiful oxygen tanks strewn about the depths, you can easily have 30-minute hoarding dives that end in tragedy if you get attacked by the wrong kind of shark when you're ballistically unprepared, and waste your dive with nothing to show for it. That can definitely be frustrating, but it probably won't be that common. Just stay away from thresher sharks if you don't have the ammo. They're the only ones I would consider to be that dangerous. Dave the Diver is mostly a blast start to finish though, so I give fun a 90. And now for our overall score, which takes all the previous scores into consideration based on how important the category is. I'm giving Dave the Diver an all-encompassing 93 out of 100. But how can you do that when none of the individual scores were past 90? Because it's not just about the numbers, man. It's about the experience. It's about the journey as well as the destination, and sometimes that surpasses the mathematics of a situation. I give this game a smile and a nod, and I send it on its merry way with a 93 because it blessed my heart. Also, it helps that I fucking love sushi. Dave the Diver is currently on Steam with future plans to release on Switch and sells for an extremely justifiable $20. Well, that's going to do it for this review. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you can like, share, and subscribe. Watch all my other videos with hot pepper tuna playing in the background, and I'll see you guys next time.